From kangaroos on the beach at sunrise to whales breaching just offshore, today we're sharing where and when to see Australia's most iconic wildlife in Queensland.
Welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is founder of the Global Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. Each week, Tracy is joined by expert guests as she takes you on a journey to destinations around the world, sharing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, and practical tips to help you plan your next adventure. Join us as we explore everywhere from bustling cities to remote landscapes, uncover cultural treasures, and discover the best ways to make your travel dreams a reality.
Hi and welcome to this week's episode of the Global Travel Planner podcast. Now, as you know, I spend a lot of my time in Australia. Australia is our home, and it's also home to some of the most unique and fascinating wildlife on the planet. And seeing it in the wild is one of the highlights of any visit to Australia. But location and timing are everything. So in this episode, I'm joined by Lady Who Travels, Melissa, to talk about where and when to spot some of the country's most famous creatures in Queensland. From kangaroos at Cape Hillsborough and cassowaries in far north Queensland to whales, koala, dingoes, and even the elusive platypus. We'll share tips, seasonal advice, and Melissa's own memorable encounters to help you plan your wildlife experiences. Whether you're dreaming of swimming alongside turtles, spotting a dugong, or catching a glimpse of a bilby, this episode is packed with inspiration for your Australian adventure. So once again, I am joined by my fellow lady who travels, Melissa, to chat about, we're going to talk about Australian wildlife, but specific to Queensland today. But would you like to introduce yourself, Melissa, and just tell us a little bit about what you do, please? That'd be great.
Sure. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks for having me on again. Like Tracy said, I help co-host Ladies Who Travel with Tracy, and I also have websites, Queensland Travel Guide website and the Brisbane Travel Guide website to help you plan your trips to Brisbane or Queensland. I'm also a travel planner, so if you need extra help with your trip to Queensland or Australia, I can help book and plan and make sure you have a fantastic time coming to our beautiful country.
You can, and you were born and brought up in Queensland as well. So you're, yes.
Born, bred, and I've actually lived in Brisbane my entire life, so I do know it pretty well.
Exactly. So if you've got any questions about Brisbane or visiting Queensland, Melissa is your go-to. So I was desperate to do this episode about wildlife because it was one of those things that when we moved to Australia, I was so excited about seeing the animals here, and it doesn't disappoint. It's every day, even looking out on my balcony, it's just, the cockatoos, and it is a fabulous destination to come and see wildlife, and Queensland in particular. So we're going to focus on Queensland for this episode. Now, Australia is obviously famous for so much because we have so many things nobody else has here. Now, if they're going to visit Queensland and they have an interest, so if you're listening at the minute thinking, I'm going to go to Queensland, I particularly want to see some of these Australian animals, where should they start?
When I saw this question, I was having a think about that. The good thing about Queensland is, we're also famous for the Australia Zoo, Steve Irwin's Australia Zoo, and a lot of people, I think that's where they're thinking of starting. And look, Australia Zoo is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great zoo, and definitely put it on your list if you're coming to Queensland. But you don't have to go to a zoo in Queensland to see our wildlife, and that's what I think is so awesome. But obviously there are, Queensland's a very, very geographically a very big place, and you're not going to see all the Australian wildlife in one place. So what I would do is perhaps make a list of what animals you'd really like to see, and then also maybe make a list of the destinations that you want to see. And as we go through this podcast, we're going to talk about the different animals and where you can see them. And so then you can see where there's a crossover of where the animals are and the destinations, and plan your trip to Queensland that way. But if there is an animal that you really, really, really want to see, then perhaps, you put that destination on your itinerary.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, because I think I know a lot of people want to see turtles, a lot of people want to go and see cassowary, a lot of people want to go and, everybody wants to see a kangaroo, everybody wants to see a koala. And as my mum came last year and kangaroo was top of her list with koala. And so she saw lots of kangaroos. out in the wild because we went out to Stanthorpe and had a lovely time there. But we took her to Australia Zoo as well, which she absolutely loved. And of course, she saw lots of koala, which was she was just made up by that. But how important is it for if you're planning a visit to think about timing when it comes to spotting different species?
So timing. There's a couple of things in timing, like this time of year and time of day. Now, there are certain animals that you only see at certain times of year, but it's only a few animals. So generally for animals in Queensland, you can see all the animals at all the times of the year. That the only animal that probably is really seasonal will be the whales. So generally our whale season is May to November, so it's quite long. So, there's a good chance that you're going to see them. The other things is turtles. You can see turtles year round, but a really cool thing in Queensland is to see the turtles laying their eggs and also the little turtles hatching. So they're only at certain times of year as well, which is November November to March. But probably what's more important is a time of day. So a lot of the animals will tend to come out either really early in the morning or really late in the day, so dawn or dusk. And the other thing in relation to timing is seeing the crocodiles, which is my favourite. No one ever says, I want to see a crocodile. I don't know why, but I think they're amazing. Seeing crocodiles, it's best to see them at low tide. So that's pretty much the three things to consider, time of year, time of day, and also tides. Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, crocodiles, sort of on my list, but I lived in Africa for a while, so I saw quite a lot of big Nile crocodiles. So, but I do enjoy seeing them when I do go up to Farnworth with Queensland. Don't get me wrong. But let's talk about some of the animals and the experiences you can have. Now I'm going to start out with actually my favourite, because this was one of the first things that we did when we arrived here, because we didn't live very far from a place called Cape Hillsborough, which is just north of Mackay, which is where Doug and I first lived when we first moved to Australia. And you can go and see the kangaroos at dawn on the beach, which is incredible. So is that something that have you done that, Melissa?
I have seen the kangaroos at Cape Hillsborough. It is a question I see in different Facebook groups that I'm in about, and they'll say, where can we see the kangaroos at the beach in Australia? And in readiness for this podcast, I did some research, and I'm not sure if there's anywhere in Australia you can see them on the beach at sunrise except for Cape Hillsborough. So that's pretty special. So like Tracy said, just north of Mackay, so that's where you'd need to go to see them. You have to get up super early. I saw them in summertime. I've only been there once, and I saw them in summertime, so I think we had to be on the beach by like 4:00 in the morning. If it was winter, it would be a bit later. And you've got to get there just before the sun rises, and then the kangaroos come out, and they're nibbling on the seeds that get washed up on the beach each morning. There's rangers out there to make sure everyone's, keeping their distance. But it's just lovely. You just sit there and watch. And it's very peaceful. And then, as the sun rises, they all sort of slowly disappear, and then you can get on with your day.
That's true. And I have some of my favourite photographs I've ever taken were taken on Cape Hillsborough. And Doug and I have done it twice, and we've stayed in the park itself. Which is easier, because I think we did it once from Mackay, but we had to leave quite early, and you need to get there before the sun comes up. So obviously there's also the risk at that time, if you're driving around too much, of kangaroos on the roads. And we did have a few times where we had the kangaroos near misses with the car, so you have to be very careful driving at that time.
Yes, you definitely do. Yeah. That's one thing that people will always tell you: do not drive outside, but outside in dawn and dusk, because kangaroos, that's when they are very, very active. But like Tracy said, there is one resort at Cape Hillsborough, and being just one resort, it gets booked out. So it was booked out when I went, and I have looked at booking other clients, and it's been booked out then as well. So you have to stay. The nearest town is Seaforth, which is about 15-20 minute drive. So you have to factor that in. Like you said, you're getting up early. So if you do want to do this, book that accommodation as early as possible.
Absolutely. And I actually have got an article on global travel planning all about how to see the kangaroos at Cape Hillsborough. It was one of the first
very
articles
good.
I wrote when I first came to Queensland. And it's actually one of my most popular articles. So do check that one out as well. Because it's got all my photos. And I haven't done it for a few years, actually, but it's just a wonderful experience to do. And if you're doing that drive, which I know we're going to do a podcast about driving from the options, driving from Brisbane to up to Cairns, up that direction, you do have an option of including that in your itinerary, and I really would
Perfect place
do
to
that.
stop.
So the next thing we're going to talk about are whales. Now we not long ago, actually I'm going to say not long ago, but it's actually going to be over a year ago, but didn't feel like it. We've been out with Brisbane whale watching to see the whales themselves. So tell me about the best places to see them, what time of year to see them. I love the fact you do get fairly close on these boats to see the breaching. I mean, it's a wonderful experience. But fill us in about whales.
Yeah, I mean, so the whales, you can pretty much see them like all along the east coast. But the most popular place, or I don't know if I say it's the most popular, but we call it the whale watching capital of Australia, and that is Hervey Bay, which is about a 4-hour drive north of Brisbane. And so the reason why Hervey Bay is so popular is because the whales, for some reason, like to hang around and socialise, apparently, in the waters off Hervey Bay. So I think that the waters there are just populated a bit more with whales, whereas everywhere else the whales are more so passing by. I have gone whale watching in Hervey Bay and it was incredible. Really amazing. But you can also see the whales off Brisbane, which Tracy and I have done a couple of times, the Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast. So I've also done it from the Gold Coast. And all the times I've been out whale watching, I've always seen plenty of whales, breaching, all different amazing behaviours. It's never disappointed. It's just fabulous. The times of year, it's about sort of June to November, and obviously sort of that. In those months, sort of like July and August, you'll see more of them than on the outskirts of those times. But it's fabulous and well worth it.
It's brilliant. And later on when they come back down with the babies as well, because you should say that's what they're coming from Antarctica to come and give birth in the warmer waters off Queensland. So they head up the coast. Apparently a lot of them will give birth around that Hervey Bay region as well. Wow. And they come, the pregnant whale will come with another whale who kind of will escort her, and then she gives birth, and then they head back down to Antarctica, which they do. It's an annual thing. It's amazing. I go out every year to go and see the whales because they're just there. They're so close, and it's such a privilege. And I actually live within walking distance of getting the Brisbane whale watching boat from Moreton Bay. So that's something that we just do that every year. I'm actually trying to talk Doug into it because he doesn't like boats. So, it can get a little bit choppy when you get to the other side of Moreton Bay.
I find, don't you find, Tracy, that you don't even think about the choppiness. You're just like, oh my God, it's a whale. And you're just running over and not even worried about the conditions.
No, and they come so close to the boat as well. It's incredible. They come to the boat because it's when the whale comes up and you can see this massive eye, and it's watching you. You're watching it. It's watching you, and it's a magical experience. So definitely, if you're in Queensland that time of year, you really should do. If you're based in Brisbane, just take come out to Moreton Bay, go out on take a tour out on the boat, and just. Honestly, you will not regret it. It's such an amazing experience. Now, on the next feature I'm going to talk about is one that's quite elusive and quite a lot of people, even that live in Queensland, haven't seen, is a platypus. Now, I've seen platypus a couple of times in a couple of different places in Queensland, but I was wondering about, have you had a chance to see any platypus?
I have. I've only seen them once. I mean, I've been to different places where they're supposed to be, but I wasn't lucky enough to spot them. But the one place I have seen them is in Euganella. Is that how you pronounce it, Tracy? Do you know? Euganella?
I think it's Ungala.
Unganella?
Ungala. I think it's Ungala. Yeah, because I used to live beside Mackay, so we used to go to Ungala National Park quite a lot because it's a fairly easy drive from Mackay, like 40 minutes or so, I think. Yeah.
So there's Broken River there. So that's, we were talking about Cape Hillsborough seeing the kangaroo. So this is a really good thing you can do you can go and see both in that trip. You can go up there and see the platypus. We did, I recommend going with a guide because they're really hard to spot. So, they only come up out at dusk and dawn. And because, the colour of platypus and, they're sort of in murky waters, they're super hard to spot. So if you're with a guide, they know what to look for. I've got this picture and maybe we could put it up and you just have to use your imagination to know that there's a platypus there because they're really hard to spot. So my experience is probably not a great one. I don't know how your experience was seeing them, Tracy.
Well, I've been very, very lucky actually in that been out to Ungala quite a few times and I've got really good video, I've got really good photos. I think a lot of what you need to kind of be aware of if you're trying to spot platypus is to be very, very quiet and just sit and wait. Like we've sat for an hour before waiting for the platypus to come out. I've actually took Dominique, when Dominique first came out to Australia, we took her and we sat there for hours, nothing. We didn't see anything. So she hadn't seen one. So we'd been out to Ungala numerous times and seen the platypus. And actually in this kind of early afternoon, we'd seen them as well. And we were very lucky. And then far north Queensland is another place. Now, there is just outside, and it's got out Yungaburra. Yungaburra is a place that you can see platypus. We've never seen platypus there, and we have been numerous times. But there is another place, and it's gone out of my head now, on the Atherton Tablelands, where you can see platypus. And I took Dominique, when Dominique and I were last up there, and I will find the name of it and put it in the show notes because it's gone out of my head. But there's a place there you can go and pay to see the platypus. And Dominique and I saw platypus that time as well. But they are a very elusive species. It's very interesting, the platypus, because the first time a platypus was taken back to the UK in the 1800s, nobody believed it was real. They all believed it was a fake because it is the most bizarre looking, and it is the most bizarre looking animal that you're going to see. Honestly, it is, I think, anywhere, because it is, but they are amazing to see. So I have got video and I have got photos, so I will put those in the podcast. I'm going to turn to one of the most dangerous birds in the world, and it kind of well known as being one of the most dangerous birds in the world, that I've again been very lucky to see, and that is the cassowary. So where would you recommend to see a cassowary in Queensland?
Well, I haven't seen a cassowary in the wild, so there you go. But yeah, far north Queensland is the only place you can see them. Not just Queensland, but in Australia. So a few places, Mission Beach, Hervey Bay, in the Daintree area. But like Tracy said, they are considered extremely dangerous birds. So if you do see see one in the wild, do not approach it. Like most animals in the wild anyway, you don't approach it, you give it a lot of space. But I haven't seen one in the wild. I have seen one in a zoo, but maybe, Tracy, you need to tell us about your experience.
Well, we've been really, really lucky up in the Daintree in that we stayed in a cottage in the middle of the Daintree, and we're having breakfast, and they're I can't remember his name now. It's something like Freddie. Freddie, their cassowary, just wandered into camp. So we just had breakfast, kind of watching this cassowary going around trying to forage for some food. We've also been driving in the Daintree and had a cassowary by the side of the road. And also we've been to Hervey Bay. Hervey Bay is an excellent place. You'll see them wandering around, and there's campsites and everything, and you've got the cassowary kind of wandering around there. Again, you just have to be careful, be aware about them. But my favourite experience was last year. I actually took my parents up to stay in far north Queensland. We actually went into the Daintree for the day, and we did this boardwalk walk beside Cape Tribulation. Anyway, I had kind of gone ahead from the group, and I was looking through my camera. I was actually doing a video at the time, and I was looking through a video, and the next thing, I'm literally looking through the video, and there's a cassowary in front of me. I nearly had a heart attack. There was just me and this cassowary, and I was like, you are kidding. So I literally just backed up very, very, very quietly and got back. They were probably about 2 minutes behind me, and got to the rest of the group and went, you need to be really quiet. There's quite a few people on the boardwalk at this time. You need to be really, really quiet because there's a cassowary literally about a minute ahead of us. So everybody then walked really quiet. It was actually juvenile. and we took video and walked past very, very quietly, obviously very kept the distance. We were on the boardwalk. The cassowary was just off the boardwalk. But we've been incredibly lucky. This is the only place in the world that you can see them, apart from if you do in the wild anyway. But if you're not going up to Far North Queensland, you can see them at Australia Zoo.
Yes, and that's probably where I can't remember. It's probably where I've seen them.
Right, shall we turn to crocodiles? You're a particular fan of crocodiles. So where's the safest place to see crocodiles in the wild in Queensland?
Generally from a boat is the safest place. You don't want to be seeing them while you're on foot. No. I just love seeing crocodiles. I just think that they're so terrifying and scary looking. So yeah, I just love seeing them. But yeah, so Far North Queensland is a great place to see them in the wild. The Daintree in particular, I always recommend clients. I'm like, go to the Daintree, get on a boat, and you're almost guaranteed to see the crocodiles there. And that's when we were talking about the tides earlier. Someone gave me this tip a while back and said to check the tide. So, because obviously if it's high tide, then the crocodiles are more likely to be in the water and harder to see. But if it's low tide, then they're more likely to be on the bank, so easier to see. So I always recommend that to people, to check the tides when deciding when to go. Because in the Daintree, the boat tours there run almost like every hour for the whole day. So you can easily choose when to go. So that's really easy place to see them. I've also seen them in Weipa, that they take out people on boat tours out there. So that they're the times I've seen them, just on boat tours. I've never seen one while I'm just driving past or anything like that, even though I've been looking. I've definitely been looking. But on that note, if you are anywhere where there's crocodiles in the water, stay away, because you probably won't know that there's a crocodile in the water, but the crocodile will know that you're there. They say to keep about 5 meters away from the edge of the shore, because a good thing about crocodiles is once they're out of the water, they can't move very fast, but in the water they can move very fast, and they have this they sort of jump out at you. So if you're 5 meters away, then you're pretty safe. But they're just magnificent. I think they're amazing.
Yeah, you've got to be very, very careful in Far North Queensland. I mean, all the beaches will have the signs about crocodiles, the potential, the rivers. I have seen crocodiles actually driving into Cairns. There's a bridge you can stop at, and sometimes you can see the crocodiles there on, it's sitting in the line in the sun. And we always as well take the Lady Douglas boat when we go to Port Douglas, and you can go on the inlet and see crocodiles, the crocodiles there. And even sometimes if you're crossing over to the Daintree on the ferry, you can see occasionally there as well. There's just so many of them that they're not my favourite. And I remember actually when I was taking my first boat trip on a Daintree to go and see crocodiles, and when I bought the tickets, the guy saying, just be really careful when you walk through the boardwalk if the tide's in, because sometimes the crocs can come right into there. Yeah, I was like, oh no, okay, that's a bit scary. So yeah, you just have to be really croc aware. And even last time we were visiting, we were watching safely, and there was a family on the other side who kind of walked through, and there's a big crocodile, particularly near this beside this park, caravan park, and the little boy was very close to the edge looking in, and we were like, you know what, the croc could be in there, and it's so you've got to be really, really careful. So that's what freaks me out. It's like you don't quite know where they're going to be.
No, you don't, and it's you just have to remember. Like I've travelled all the way to the tip of Queensland and seen some stunning beaches, and I just love beaches, and they're so enticing, and you're like, gosh, it's gorgeous, I want to get in there, but you just can't, and you mustn't. Just look from a distance and enjoy, because I've seen some footage online, and it's of a dog right on the, like, walking up and down really close to the water, and you can't see from that angle that there's a crocodile there, but then there's like a drone footage, and you can see this crocodile just following this little dog up and down, up and down. So even if you can't see a crocodile does not mean there's not one there. So I just think the best thing is to assume there's crocodiles there all the time.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's the right idea. So we're gonna turn our attention from probably the least cute to the most cute. Everybody wants to come and see koala, and Queensland is one of the only states you can see koala in Australia. So where can you see them outside of the zoos? And do you have a favourite spot?
Probably. So just recently, actually, I went to Magnetic Island with my daughter, which is an island just off the coast of Townsville in far north Queensland as well. So Magnetic Island is very famous for seeing koalas, and we were on this hike, and within a few minutes we saw a koala, which was, about eye level on a tree just sleeping. It was the only one we saw, but it's still incredible. Even as a Queenslander, like I said, my whole life lived in Queensland, it's not very common to see koalas in the wild. Unfortunately, the numbers are pretty low. So, they're not the easiest animals to see in the wild. So even as a local, when I see a koala, I get pretty excited. In the wild, I see them all the time in the zoo. It doesn't really faze me, but seeing them in the wild, it's really special. So the other place I've seen them is actually in the Noosa National Park. I think it's probably less likely you're going to see them there than Magnetic Island, but it's still very, very possible. You just have to be really patient, maybe have binoculars, and I'm not patient and I don't carry binoculars, so I'm probably not the best person to spot them, but I have seen one, but I was with somebody else who was both patient and had binoculars. So they're the main places that I'm aware of in Queensland that you can see them in the wild. It's not like impossible to see them in other places. If you're out somewhere in bushland or country, it's possible. Actually, sorry, there is one other place I've seen them, and that's on Stradbroke Island. We stayed in this campsite a few times in Amity Point, and there's apparently a resident koala that lives there. And, I actually saw the koala running across the campsite on the ground, which was a bit interesting. So, Stradbroke Island, is another good place to see koalas as well. What about you, Tracy? Have you seen them in the wild in Australia, in Queensland?
You know what? I have seen them in the wild in Victoria, but not in Queensland. Actually, what's really interesting is apparently we have them on the peninsula, though, because I've got a friend who she took a video when she was picking the kids up from school because there were some in the tree. And she was like, look, this is what I go pick the kids up on this koala. And unfortunately, very, very sadly, I think a couple of years ago, on one of the main roads beside us, a koala was killed on the road, unfortunately, because people, they have the signs up saying, go slow. And I think people just don't take any notice. So unfortunately, that happens. But I have not, and I've been to Noosa National Park trying to spot and haven't. I think I need to add that to my list of things that I need to go and do again. Try again. I've obviously seen them in the zoo a number of times, but no, I haven't. So not in Queensland, but I would very much like to.
I think for people visiting, if you want to see a koala, you're probably best to go to Australia Zoo or Lone Pine in Brisbane, Currumbin down on the Gold Coast. They are not the easiest animal to see in the wild. Actually, one of the great places to see them in Queensland is at Daisy Hill, which is south of Brisbane. They have like this koala sanctuary there. And that's not a bad spot to see them as well.
Well, I have to say, last year I took my mum to Australia Zoo to see them, and I think we have got a choice of a few places that we can take them to see them, which is really good because everybody wants to see a koala, don't they?
Absolutely.
Now, the other animal that I have not seen in the wild yet is dingo.
Ah, okay.
Now I know Dominique has seen dingo because she's been on Gari Island. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so. Yeah. Gari, formerly known as Fraser Island for some people, it's now gone back to its Indigenous name, which is why Tracy and I is it Gari? That's how I say it, Gari. I think that's correct. I was going to say if you go to Gari, then there's a very, very good chance you'll see a dingo. I've seen them there every time I've been to Gari. There is a good chance if you go to Gari, you'll see at least one or two dingoes. They're not shy animals, and they're definitely they know that where there's humans, there's generally food, so they do tend to come out where there's humans, which unfortunately does make it a little bit dangerous. There has been a lot of attacks. Even some people have been killed from dingoes on Kari. But, I think generally if you, again, like we're talking about crocodiles, you stay away from them, you don't go near them. You keep any rubbish secure, food secure, because that's obviously what encourages them. But, if you see them in the distance, they're lovely to watch them. They usually hang out in packs, so not where there's one, there's normally a couple of other dingoes. I don't know. They don't excite me that much. They're just like a dog, a wild dog. But, yeah, I have seen dingoes in Kari. I'm not sure if there's anywhere else in Queensland. Probably in the far west, you could probably see them in deserts as well, but I haven't seen them there.
Okay, cool. And then the next one is actually quite an unusual one that I didn't even know about until I came to Australia, and that is tree kangaroos, which I've been lucky to see a number of times in far north Queensland. But again, they're very, very unusual, I guess, for everybody to get the opportunity to see them. Have you managed to see tree kangaroos?
I don't think so. I saw this question. I was trying to think. I don't think I've seen a tree kangaroo. So, I did a bit of research just to find out exactly where they are. And it says that they're only in North Queensland again, and like the Atherton Tablelands and the Daintree. I certainly haven't seen them. So I'm not sure, apart from the zoo. But yeah, North Queensland again, apparently. I think hopefully you're getting the understanding that if you go to North Queensland, you're going to see a lot of our wildlife.
Yeah, and you actually have an article on your website as well about all these animals and where to see them, and so you can have a look at that and check out where they are. So I guess it's one of those, if you're going to go up to North Queensland, you can start looking at which animals you can start figure out how you can see them. And another one, we're going back to the water this time, is I guess something that we do have beside us on Moreton Bay is dugongs. Now, I still have not seen a dugong either, but apparently not long ago from the pier in Redcliffe, there was a dugong and her baby swimming along, and I would love to have seen that. But yeah, I think they're not easy to see, but I know when we've taken the boat out to Moreton Island, they've said that, keep an eye out, you may be able to see them. But and I think there's a equivalent of a dugong in Florida as well. I don't know if it's called a dugong, but that sort of kind of animal.
Is it like
manatee, manatee
or something. Yeah. And I haven't seen them either, but like you said, they're meant to be in Moreton Bay, which is just like where Tracy lives, not far from where I live. But also in the Great Barrier Reef as well. They kept talking about when we were on that catamaran tour in the Whitsundays. They kept saying, "Oh, look out for dugongs." Never saw them either, but I would really, really love to.
Well, hopefully if you do come to Queensland and you see one, let us know and send us a photo. Now, turtles, obviously we've got to talk about turtles. So I have not yet had the privilege of seeing the egg laying or the hatching, because I know you have to book that well ahead, and we tend to not be in the country at the time necessary. But to talk about turtles.
Oh, turtles are amazing. Everyone wants to see a turtle, I think, and I love seeing them. And I've seen many, 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 many turtles in the wild, like probably hundreds of turtles in the wild, and it still doesn't disappoint me when I see them. So the good news is if you come into Queensland, it's very easy to see turtles in the ocean. Good chance you'll get to swim with them because they're not shy, they're very slow, and they're easy to see. But what's even more special, like what Tracy was just saying, is seeing them nest. So seeing them lay turtles and then seeing the little babies hatching. I've never seen the babies hatching, but I've seen the turtles laying their eggs, and it's just amazing. It's so magical. So a couple of places you can see that. Probably the most popular is Monrepos. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it. Do you know, Tracy?
I think it's Monrepo. I've actually I have walked along the beach at Monrepo Beach, but not at the time that they were laying anything. But so
you can see them there in Bundaberg. That's about 4 hours drive north of Brisbane, so pretty easy if you're coming to Brisbane to do that. So the season is November to March. So earlier in the season, of course, is when the turtles come to lay their eggs, and then later in the season is when they hatch. So to see them there, you do have to book a guided tour, and they book out really, really fast. It's super popular. So if you do want to do that and you're going to come, then book early. I believe I've just been looking out now for some clients, and I think they go on sale in September. So I'd recommend writing it down and booking straight away. But some other great places you can see them is in the southern Great Barrier Reef on islands like Heron Island, Wilson Island, Lady Musgrave Island, Lady Elliot Island. I was recently on Lady Elliot Island at the end of the season. I didn't see any turtles. Sorry, I did see turtles in the water, but I didn't see any turtles on the beach or anything. But I have been lucky enough to stay at Wilson Island in December, and the island was absolutely jam-packed, full of turtles laying. There were so many that you just walk down the beach and you wouldn't even take notice anymore because they were just everywhere laying their eggs. It was just such a magical experience. Only early in the morning, so like as the sun comes up, they all return to the water, but you get up early in the morning and you just see these turtles everywhere laying their eggs. Just an incredible experience to see. I highly recommend it. I really, really, really do.
I just thought, now you've mentioned Wilson Island, we should honestly do an episode about the different islands off Queensland, because there are some fabulous islands. Now, just a quick one. How did you get to Wilson Island? And whereabouts is it? Because even I don't know. I was kind of like, I'm not sure where that is.
Okay, so to get to Wilson Island, so it's off the coast of Gladstone, which a lot of people probably haven't heard of Gladstone because it's really just an industrial town. So it's not somewhere where you go for a holiday. But off Gladstone Island is Heron Island, which is a fairly popular island. And so you go to Heron Island, and then from Heron Island you go to Wilson Island. So Wilson Island is just amazing, and we could talk about that some other time. But Heron Island is also a fabulous place to go and see the turtles. But I had already been to Wilson Island, and I wasn't getting up early anymore to see turtles. So I'd seen plenty over at Wilson. But as for seeing turtles in the water, I've seen them in Wilson Island, Heron Island, Lady Musgrave, Lady Elliot, Magnetic, Hamilton, Fitzroy. I've seen them so many places. They really are easy to see turtles, but I've still loved seeing them. And every time I've seen them, I've got super excited. So if you're coming to Queensland, we can arrange for you most likely to swim with turtles.
Yeah, which is an amazing experience. I'd highly recommend that. When you see your first turtle, it's great. And if you've got a GoPro that you can use under the water, even better. You can get, I had my GoPro just hoping a turtle would come by and I could get a shot of it. We're gonna kind of finish off talking about the animals with one of my personal favourites, and one that I've been very, very lucky to see. And there were a couple of other animals I was thinking we could have included, but we haven't because they're a little bit more unusual. But I have to talk about a bilby. Because bilbies are so cute, but they are basically, I would say, impossible to see in the wild. They're endangered. So I've been really lucky to see a bilby when I've been out at Charleville. And so I don't know how to describe a bilby. It's probably there. I don't know. Have you seen a bilby, Melissa? Is it?
I've not in the wild. I've seen them, in zoos. I haven't seen them. Unfortunately, when I was at Charleville, the bilby place that you go to was closed for renovation or something at the time. So I haven't seen them even there. But I don't know. How do you? To me, they're like a really, really, really tiny rabbit.
Well, they've got a funny nose. They've got like a long nose. They're like a bit between a rabbit and I don't know. I think that they're a marsupial as far as I'm aware. They come out at night. So when you go to see them at the Bilby Experience in Charleville, and I highly recommend just going to Charleville anyway, because there's loads to do there. It's one of my favourite places to go on that back. But so they have it so that they have day and night switched round so that the bilbies are active during the day, but they think it's night. So you can go in and see them. Now, I went before COVID, and at that point, they were bringing a bilby out so you could see it. they don't, as far as I'm aware,
No.
post-COVID, they don't allow that anymore, because I think they'll realise that it just was stressing the bilby out, obviously, and so
Yeah.
they don't allow that anymore.
No.
But I have got photos of bilbies. They're just so cute. And what I love in Australia as well is, like, if you think of Easter with the Easter bunny, you have Easter bilbies.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I know I've eaten lots of bilbies, like chocolate bilbies.
But there are unfortunately another species in Queensland that has been impacted so much by what British people brought over in the 1800s, when they were bringing rabbits over, and they're bringing foxes over for fox hunting, and all these invasive rats, all these things that came over that weren't native to Australia. They have, and cats are another one. Wild cats have gone out, and they're having a massive impact on a lot of the species in Australia and Queensland. So it's devastating, and I would highly recommend, though, if you're going at Charleville, definitely go. I've been there a couple of times. Go and support their work, because again, this is an animal that is a significant threat of being wiped out, which would be incredibly sad. We want these animals to be still out there in the wild living. That's where they should.
Yeah.
That's where they should be. So I guess that kind of leads us on to kind of thinking about practical advice. So what would be the etiquette to wildlife encounters to keep both humans and animals safe?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of this is common sense, but sadly, when I've seen animals in the wild and the way other humans react, it doesn't seem to be common sense. But I mean, give the animal heaps and heaps of space, or let the animals come to you. The one thing I talked about, like seeing turtles in the wild, I've seen a lot of people just crowd them, and it really upsets me. Just give them space. The animals like turtles or whales, like we mentioned before, they will come to you. Like, a lot of these animals will come to you. So just give them the space to do what they want to do. Just use your common sense. Keep food and rubbish secure when you're out in the wild, because this is where the problem is with, the dingoes on Kari. Like, they're if the animals hurt somebody, then the animal gets killed, unfortunately. So we need to be, as humans, I think we need to be thinking ahead and making sure these animals are safe and we're safe. Because being a wild animal, their behaviour, it can not be predicted sometimes. So, yeah, just keep your distance and stuff. That's, to me, what's most important, is keeping your distance from them.
And I know you mentioned that, use your Zoom, not your feet. So is there any gear or apps? Yeah, any gear or apps that you would recommend that would help with, that people should pack?
Just like if you like binoculars, if you're wanting to take photos, make sure you've got good zoom on your camera or things like that, so you don't have to get closer to the animal, so you can get really good photos from a distance. If you're into bird watching or whatever, I don't know much about bird watching or anything, but I'm sure there's lots of apps where you can identify animals. I know, like, a lot of places I go to, like, you go to the resort or whatever, and they might give you a card or something of the different fish you could see or animals you can see. So they're a good way of being able to identify what you're looking at, or apps in relation to tide, so you can find out what the tides are going to be like to be able to spot crocodiles and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. Now, I know we'd mentioned about, for example, whale watching. It's you obviously, if you don't own a boat and live in Queensland, your best bet is to go out with someone like, Queensland Whale Watching, and you go out on an organised tour. So are there any tours and guides that you recommend for getting the most out of the experiences? And I am going to give a big shout out to Queensland Whale Watching, because that's the company that I go out with every time. I've been a guest with them a couple of times, and they are fantastic and knowledgeable. So you will learn about the whales as well as seeing the whales, and I think that's fantastic. And that's, I guess, what you're going to say about, that's the advantage, isn't it, when you go out with a guide on a tour? It
is. They just know, like, a lot of these places, like on the islands that I talked about, you can easily just go out and see the turtles yourself, or look at the bird watch. But I'm a bit of a sucker, or not a sucker. I'm a nerd. I love learning about the animals, so I'll always, when I go to these places, and you can sign up for a tour with a guide, I'm always there, and I'm always out the front asking questions. But I just love learning about the animals. it gives you a better appreciation for the animals, what you can do as, a good human being to protect wildlife. And sometimes you might not realise how our behaviours are negatively impacting the animals. So it's important for me anyway to learn how I can be a better human and leave the world in a better place for our wildlife. So I always think, signing up for either a paid or an unpaid tour with a guide is the best way to see the animals, and it helps you more likely to guarantee that you'll spot them because they know the behaviours to look out for, or footprints, or these people are just experts in their field. So I like to see animals in the wild with a guide where possible.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, I grew up in Africa, and I know going out on a game drive safari is far better if you go out with a Jeep with somebody who knows what they're looking for, because you can drive. I mean, even we were in India last year, and we, we wouldn't have spotted that tiger, but
not
the guides, but they know what they're looking for. Exactly. So
you would drive right by. There could be animals there, and no doubt on my own, I've walked past many, many animals and had no idea. So going with the guides is much better.
So what about your favourite wildlife encounter in Queensland?
I slightly touched on it earlier. The turtles on Wilson Island was incredible. Like I said, they were all over the beach. But one of my most favourite time was, so on Wilson Island, you stay like in these glamping tents, and they're on these wooden sort of platforms. And in the middle of the night, we woke up to this kind of banging that was coming from underneath, and we went out, and it turned out, and it was a turtle she'd come under the sand under our tent, and the flippers that they there, and her shell was kind of hitting underneath, so we hardly got any sleep because this mama turtle was under there nesting. And in the morning, she was still there. So we were watching her as she was kind of coming back out and making her way down the beach. It felt so intimate and so incredible to have that experience. And it was just us and her. And I highly recommend Wilson Island for a really, truly intimate sort of experience with turtles. Amazing.
Yeah. Definitely on my to-do list for sure. 100%. We've got so many amazing experiences and animals to see. But if there's just one tip you could give someone visiting Queensland and hoping to see wildlife, what would it be?
Well, firstly, come to Queensland. If you're coming to Australia and you want to see wildlife, come to Queensland. Hopefully this podcast has shown you that we have so many amazing wildlife experiences. Australia Zoo might be on your bucket list, and definitely go, but you don't have to see the animals just in the zoo. You can actually see them in their natural habitat, which to me is so much better. And Queensland just gives you so many wonderful experiences to see the Australian wildlife.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm gonna link to your article as well, which is all about where to see them and a bit more information. So if you're planning the trip, and also contact Melissa, you've got your Queensland travel guide. So we'll link to that. So if you're planning a trip, you want to see some of these animals, you don't know how to start, Melissa's the person to talk to.
Yeah, I'd love to help you plan a trip to Queensland and see all our amazing wildlife.
Absolutely. Well, again, as always, it's great to chat with you on the podcast. It's just great. We just have such a good time chatting about Queensland and about our travels for the ladies who travel. So you'll find everything that we talked about in this episode in terms of links to Melissa's website and the photos that we've both taken during our time seeing some of this wildlife in Queensland at globaltravelplanning.com/episode 83. I just want to say, before I sign off, and we have our usual kind of tagline at the end, I just want to say, please, if you've seen any of these animals in Queensland, or you want to come and see any of these animals in Queensland, leave us a message via SpeakPipe, because Melissa and I want to hear from you guys so we can get back to you, and we want to know what is the animal that you really, really want to see when you come. And if you have already seen any of these animals in the wild because you've been over to Queensland, what was your favourite encounter? Have you got any interesting stories to share? Because we'd love to hear from you. So from Melissa and I, until next week, happy global travel planning. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favourite podcast app, because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.